Hi, my name is Jeff from Mental Health Resource.
And I am Keta with Straitjacket Podcast. And today we have our guest, Jahziel, who also goes by Ozzy.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And Ozzy is an avid and incredibly talented musician. He has an incredible story, and he's also just taken 2 years of recovery.
Yeah, that's true.
What was the date?
Congrats.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you. March 6, 2023.
Okay.
6. Oh, yeah, that just happened.
Yeah.
Definitely an achievement.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially after, there was a few tries involved in that.
Yeah. That's for sure. I spent a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, take us into young Ozzy. Like, where'd you grow up? How was home life as a youth?
When I grew up, I was growing up, my house was, I felt like I had a good childhood. Like, I got to see both of my parents, sort of. My mom was in addiction.
Okay.
When I was growing up. My dad never messed with anything like that, but I don't know, we kept the house together. There were weird things, like my mom wouldn't wake up some days, I remember that. Sorry, Mom. But she'd say, like, we're going to go to the theater or something today or whatever, and it'd be time to go, and I'd want to wake her up. Come on, Mom, let's go. And she didn't want to go anymore. But I don't know. I knew something was wrong, but I don't really remember it affecting me. Like, I don't remember thinking about it too much.
It was like normal to you?
Yeah. Yeah, it was normal.
Yeah, because we don't know anything outside of our own home experience as kids. So until we see something differently displayed to us, like with friend group families, I remember that was when I started to notice something was off in my family, because other people's families did things a lot differently than mine did.
Yeah, I kind of always thought I had, like, the cool mom, I didn't,
Okay.
I didn't have
She
rules.
lets us do whatever we want.
Yeah.
I could go out, and it was a good time. But then she did end up getting sober right around when I was about 12 or 13, and everything changed. And I really didn't like it,
Yeah.
to tell you the truth.
Did you rebel at that point?
Yeah, no chips, no sugar,
Ah.
Oh, she was that
She
type
had
of
all these-
You
sober.
went
Yeah.
extreme.
New rules. That was weird. I had to be home by 5 in the afternoon. But I wasn't like I remember I was trying to hide what I was worried about if my mom found out if I did anything bad when I was growing up, if that makes sense. Like, I wasn't like a super, I did things that, like, people didn't know I was doing. Like, I remember nobody showed me how to ditch school or anything like that, Like, I just remember thinking, like, all right, I don't want to be here. I'm leaving,
Yeah.
And, like, I left. But, like, I only did things if I thought I could get away with them. I'll put it to you like that. I never wanted my mom to know what I was up to.
So you weren't like middle fingers to...
No.
Yeah.
I was in the bathroom, like, where nobody could see.
Close the door.
Yeah, I remember I'd be like, But yeah. It was
When did
cool.
your usage start?
I started when I was about 14 years old.
So right when she got sober.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
right.
that's
And that was when
interesting.
I came out to Orange County. We had moved away from LA County. I think because that's where my mom was doing what she was doing, and she wanted to bring us to Orange County for, like, a new start,
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I ended up starting what I was doing, and it was a good time. for a
How'd you
while.
get introduced to it?
At school, I had a friend. One day, it was Ocean View High School. I was 9th grade, and a kid one day brought a box of cough medicine, triple C's.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they called them. And I remember he told me, "Hey, Ozzy, take 5 of these," And I didn't know why we were doing this. I wouldn't, like, that's the other thing. I remember I knew people used to smoke weed. Like, in the lockers, I would see them doing that, and I'd be like, like, I can't do that, and I don't want to try it because, like, it smells and stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, when he said, like, "Hey, take 5 of these," I was like, all right. And I took them, and I remember walking home that day from school, like, noticing something was happening that was, like, really sick. I don't know how else to explain it. I was just like, what's happening, dude? And
What's that high like? Is it like a...
triple C's?
Yeah, is it like a trip? Like...
It made music really cool. Like,
Okay.
there's a song called Dramamine by Modest Mouse that I remember listening to, and for some reason it made it make sense to me. the beginning of the song is kind of like, feels like you're on a boat, like it's like, you know, like sea legs. Like it just makes you feel
like
kind of
vertigo.
like, yeah. I don't really know how to describe it, but it was cool.
Okay.
So the next day I asked him, like, hey, where'd you get that? And can I get some more? You know? And
Do you think that you had that like addict gene, and it was like once that door was opened, it opened up that possibility for like more and wanting more?
that's kind of tricky because sometimes I think like, you know, my relationship with it is like, I feel like anybody who would have tried what I, you know, the things I've tried, you would have loved it.
Right.
You know? So I don't know if that's like, yeah, I just, as soon as I tried these things, I was like, whoa, you know, that's it. I've arrived.
Right.
You know, like that. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I remember thinking that like as I got older and well, I got stuck in a rehab when I was 14 or 15 years old.
So young.
Yeah. It was about, I think like 3 months after I had first started getting high.
Wow.
It took me about 3 months before I overdosed. And
it was all triple C's?
yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, because I had been doing them every day, and at first it was like those 5, but, you know, 5 turned to 8. I remember I took too many one time, and I was like, okay, don't do that many, but I want a little bit more, you know? And I started learning about it, like what I could do. And then on May 28th in 2007, I took 4 boxes of triple C's one day, and it was for Blue Oyster Cult, because there's a song called Then Came the Last Days of May. And I'd been taking these things every day, and I guess kind of like in, I don't know if psychosis or what, but I was listening to that song on repeat for like 3 months. And, and then on May 28th, and I wasn't like depressed or anxious or I don't feel like I was depressed or suicidal or anything like that. I was just like having a good time, and it made sense. And I was just like, I wasn't even thinking I was going to die. I was just like, Blue Oyster Cult, let's go. You know, and so my mom found out, and I went to the hospital that night.
Did she find you?
No, I came home. I got dropped off at home. My friends, like, they were taking care of me that whole day, and then at the end of the night, you know, they drove me home, and when I walked into the house, they knew. I was like just gone.
Okay. Like mentally.
Just gone. All the way gone.
You just couldn't understand anything that was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember thinking that the paramedic was like they put like a stretcher thing on the wall, but I thought it was like someone working on our lights. And I was just what's going on, you know? Kind of one of those weird scenes like in Breaking Bad or something. I remember them putting the light in my eye, and I was just like, eh.
Incoherent.
You know, incoherent.
Yeah.
So I went to my first rehab when I was 14 or 15 in Costa Mesa, a place called Breakaway.
Okay.
Oh, I know Breakaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out Breakaway.
Shout out Breakaway.
And that is like the beginning of a pretty interesting turn of events in my life. You know, like when I was 14 and I went into treatment, you know, first of all, I didn't know I was going into treatment. That morning when we left the doctor, you know, I thought we were going to go home, but we made a stop there. And I remember they told me, like, go into this room, you know. And I went into this room full of kids that were my age, like a big room full of kids, you know. And they were like, go ahead, sit down. And I remember thinking, what the heck is this, you know. And they asked, what's your name? My name's Ozzy. And they were like, what are you doing here, you know? And I told them, like, I'm just waiting for my mom, you know. And
So naive. So naive.
Just waiting for my mom, man. And they all laughed. You're not going anywhere. And that was the first time I felt like I had been, it was like against my will. Like I didn't, they told me like, you have a problem.
Yeah.
Or that's how I felt. You have a problem. You can't stop. And I was like, dude, I don't want to stop.
I've been doing this for 3 months.
Yeah. I just got
I got a
started.
whole career ahead of me.
I don't ever want to stop this. Like if I wanted to, I could stop,
Yeah.
you know. I guess at that time I'd never known what it was like to want to stop, you know. But that was
Yeah.
the first time somebody had put that idea in my head. You have a problem.
Yeah.
And it's crazy now to think about because it's when I think about how I could have, what things could have gone, how things could have gone had I listened then or understood it then. You know, I mean, really, that's all the proof I needed when I think about it now. 3 months in, you know, I tried something, then for 3 months I went on, and then I took it all the way to an overdose. Like, bro, this isn't for you.
Right. You
know?
failed at the start.
Yeah, you didn't make it long at all.
No.
But I was pretty. I'd say I hated recovery. I don't know how else to put it. I hated it. Really hated it. You know, they forced us to. I spent a year there.
1 whole year.
I spent a year at Breakaway.
Okay.
And it was residential or outpatient?
It wasn't residential. It was outpatient.
Okay.
But just having to go, I did school there. Like, they put us in a continuation class in the morning, and then after, at around, I guess, 1 o'clock, from 1 to 5, we'd be in group all day.
Okay.
And just for me, it felt like they had taken my rights away, my life away. You know? And also, I got separated from my whole life before that, like my friends in school. There was a girl I really liked, you know, and so that whole thing, it just pissed me off, you know. Rightfully so, Mom.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like,
Mom.
But
and then that year passes. What
so
happens?
that I didn't stay sober that year. I can tell you that.
The whole time you were in the rehab, you were using substances.
Not like every day, but I'd go like 2 weeks, and then I would run off to a pharmacy. You know, when I could get away with it, I would go, like on my lunch, I'd go to a pharmacy.
Were you still getting triple C's?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was all I knew, you know.
Okay.
At the time.
Did you get introduced to other substances in rehab?
Yeah, a couple. Like Adderall.
Okay.
You know, I'd never tried Adderall, but you know, some of the other kids that were there. And alcohol. I tried alcohol the first time in treatment on my way to a meeting. Actually, you know, my friend
It's ironic.
took some of his dad's vodka in a Gatorade bottle, and I remember that was crazy. And but I remember noticing, like, man, this is the coolest thing in the world. No matter what it was, triple C's, alcohol, Adderall, they all had their own different language, I guess, or like feeling that came with it. But I haven't met a drug I didn't like. Yeah. You know, they all, even the ones I was scared of. You know, like, because I remember, that's one thing when I was a kid, I remember we had this family friend who, for some reason, it stuck out in my mind that, like, okay, this guy is doing heroin. You know, don't do that. That's bad. I remember thinking that. And, but once I started crossing these lines and trying these things, I remember noticing, like, man, that's not, you just don't know, you know, but if you tried it, you know, like, this is pretty safe, is what I would think, you know. Like opiates for sure. My anxiety, I remember when I tried that stuff, it was like, I did it by myself. My friend had left it in her car, and I grabbed the foil and I hit it. And I remember before doing it, knowing, like, dude, this is crazy. I've never done this.
Right.
You have foil in your hands. You know, like, I was just drinking the day before. I like, all I'd ever done was, I'd never done that sort of stuff. But
not even like prescription pills?
Not opiates.
What age was this?
About maybe 18 or 19.
18, 19?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I remember when I went to try that, my heart was like going like this, you know, and I hit it and I held it, and I was just kind of waiting, and I noticed something happening that was like, I was like, all right. Yeah. You know, and I just, I never felt so like, oh, dude, like, no more alcohol, you know, like, I will do this now. You know, like,
this is a little better.
New God, yeah.
You know, that was Oxy. And, you know, the crazy thing about this transition, because at that point, yeah, I'm about 19, 20, 21, and Oxy's disappeared, like the good, you know, the old school Oxys. I remember those disappeared. They started putting gel in them or something.
Was everything manageable until that point? Or just about?
No, because, like, when I was drinking, I would think crazy things. Like, so I left my house. After I left Breakaway, I came back home, and then I ran away, basically, about 16 years old. I ran away to live in an apartment with a friend who I was playing music with and a girlfriend.
So you were 15?
16.
16.
16. And I remember thinking I was the man, you know, like I got my own place
At 16.
at 16.
I'm doing it.
I live with my chick, you know, but I didn't pay any bills. I didn't take out the trash. I didn't put any food in the fridge. I just pulled beers out, you know. I would just, and my friends would kind of get mad. Like the main guy, the guy who was paying the rent, he would get mad at me for like little things. Like I just took a shirt out of his closet, you know, because I needed a shirt. And he'd be like, Ozzy, is that my shirt? And I'd be like, yeah. You know, like, I remember thinking, like, man, these guys are haters, you know? I don't know why they're like, you know, we're bros. Like, how come, like, whatever, dude. I couldn't
let you use my shirt.
Yeah,
Like,
you know,
come
I would
on.
let you use my shirt. But I got kicked out of that apartment. And I remember when I got kicked out that night, I walked across the street. This was on like Beach and Heil in Huntington Beach. And I walked down to Beach and Warner where I had another friend. And it was like 3 a.m. and I climbed on his balcony and knocked on his sliding glass door. And he opened the door. He's like, Ozzy, what the heck? What are you doing here? And I was like, you know, my friend kicked me out. Can I stay here? And they were like, what? Yeah, you know, and like, so I went from that place to the next place to the next place doing that. And I never, you know, Jose's mom, I was eating all her tamales, not taking out trash, wearing Jose's clothes. There were kids in the house. And I'm just like, all I'm there to do is drink and smoke weed and like have a good time. Yeah. And everybody, I remember thinking like, everybody sucks. You know, everybody's just, you know, but I wasn't going to school. I had dropped out. And that went on until I started running out of friends' houses to show up at.
Yeah.
And this is all before opiates, you know, but the way I was drinking and smoking weed and not paying bills was like a problem for everybody.
Go figure.
And I remember my solution at the time was like, I'm going to go hang out and I'm going to get so drunk that I can't leave. You know, I'm just going to get so wasted that I'll have a place to stay tonight. Yeah. You know, and, but I was just trying to have a good time. I remember that for sure. But by the time the opiates started happening, you know, those friends that would let me stay there and drink, people had this different feeling about opiates. You know, if you're using that stuff, don't use my bathroom.
Right.
You know, definitely don't lock the door, hide your stuff, you know. And I didn't have a job either. So like, you know, yeah, I was going to start stealing things, you know, to like pay for this habit. But I play music, so I would go down to the pier a lot and play music for money and busk, which also like kind of added to my run because I kind of thought I had things figured out. You know, I didn't really. Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Is I remember the first night I stayed the night. Somebody showed me there's this bank on Bouchard and First Street. And after 7 o'clock, the bank closes, and you can run to the back of the bank, and there's these bushes that hide this little patch of dirt behind it. And somebody told me, like, put these puzzle piece, you know, little mats on the floor, and take these shopping bags and put them over the sprinklers so that in the morning the sprinklers don't get you wet, and you have a place, you know, as long as you clean everything up. And I remember laying there one night, or my first night, I was shooting heroin and shooting speed. And I remember laying there my first night. I had just finished doing that and staring at the stars, you know, and just thinking like, yeah, you know, I made it. Nobody can tell me what to do, you know, like, fuck you, breakaway.
I can do whatever I want now.
I'm living in this bush.
But for me, so like at the time, if you had asked me, like, do you have a problem? I'd have been like, yeah, this is, you know, I'm living on the streets. I'm hitting Walmart. You know, I'm doing returns. I'm panhandling, or I'm busking, and I'm sleeping on the streets, and I'm injecting drugs, and I've got no direction where to go. But who cares? You know, like, yeah, this is a problem, but who cares? This is what I want to do. You know, I finally am doing what I want to do.
And what was your relationship with your parents at that point?
Bad. Not bad. Like, they loved me and they really wanted to see me do better. Especially, like, my mom is sober, you know, so I know it was rough for her, you know. I wouldn't go home. I have a brother who, he was doing really good growing up, and I think I might have influenced some of how his life has started to turn out, you know. But I stayed away from family for the most part. I remember I would tell people, like, I don't have family. You know, all these people I was meeting in my life, I just kept my family out of it, you know, or I would tell lies straight.
Do you think you did that to, like, in some way, like, save them from what you had become?
Yeah.
And the damage, the devastation? Because I'm sure just, like, your mom seeing you in that state would evoke some type of emotional reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom told me not that long ago, she was like, you know, Jahziel, I saw, because she did see me once, she found a spoon once. One time I came home, and of course I had a spoon in my jacket, and I came home to sleep. But she told me not that long ago, she was like, you know, I saw glimpses of what you were up to, and it broke my heart. But she said, but I can only imagine what you know about what your life has looked like and what you've been up to. You know, every moment, all those times that I was in jail, and like just everything, every little detail of what has happened and how I feel about what has happened and why I did it and all the people I let down and all that kind of stuff, you know, like
the weight.
Yeah. Addiction and life is like a real interesting, I think it's like alchemy, you know. It's like at the end of the day, only I get to leave with the information I have, like the full message. No matter how many conversations we have, or if I try to write it in a book, or if I tell one person, like the next person has no idea, you know. It's like this own little personal, and I love it.
Reality.
Yeah.
It's very unique. It's only yours to experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're living in that bush. Do you get arrested?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
over.
That's like the normal sequence of events, you know. So I just wanted to lead it because I'm pretty sure the conversation was going to go there.
Yeah.
So you get arrested, and it's an over and over thing.
Yeah. You know, and jail. What about jail? Jail's an interesting thing too. You know, I can tell you that, like, I appreciate every single part of my life. There's so many beautiful things that happen when you're in jail. In my opinion, you know, I've seen some things and I've learned some things just from watching the people.
Yeah.
You know, it's a sad state of affairs. You know, you're ripped away from everything, I guess, for your own good and to repay your debt to society. But you're placed alone in a thing. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, I got used to it and tried to. I learned how to thrive when I was in jail. You know, I remember I had a friend tell me once, like, "Dude, you do really good in here." You know, I come in with nothing. Nobody puts money on my books. No phone calls. But I come in with nothing, and I start tattooing, and next thing you know, I have coffee, I have soups, I have friends, I am singing to the tier, I'm singing to the guys. You know, I'm just like day by day getting through. My whole rack is clean. I just got like this little thing going on all day, and I'm working out and all these things. And I remember somebody said, like, "Dude, you're really smart and you do really well in here, you know." And I remember telling him, like, "Well, yeah, but if I could only do this out there, you know." For some reason, as soon as I get released, every time, the first thing I do is grab a cigarette butt off the floor, you know. And I don't know how to function in society, you know,
without that structure.
Yeah.
Or like the complete absence of the decisions or the availability of the negative decision.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Jail doesn't stop me either. As soon as I remember, we used to work out. We said we'd pray to the gods of the loop, you know, hoping there's somebody down there right now has a bunch of stuff in there
that they're about to bring in.
Yeah, you know.
So you were getting high in there a little bit.
Quite a bit, because I kind of have good credit, you know, because like I'm tattooing, so money's coming, and I'm friends with like everyone, and so they know, like, hey, you know, and I end up, you know. Yeah.
He said, I wanted to sleep the entire time. Like, if they had something for that, I was taking that, but it's pretty common, actually.
Yeah. It's just definitely not the most fun place to do it, though. Everybody, like, you got a bunch of
paranoid, the cops coming. The cops are here.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
live with the cops.
Yeah, it's not cool. You can have my pancakes, like, but
Yeah.
it's but I remember like jail just became another thing I got used to. 90 days, whatever, and then I'll get back out, and I just it's sad, like the way that the state, like what I was willing to accept in my life anymore. Somehow I was like, oh, this is just part of my life. I'm good at jail,
Yeah.
and I don't want a job, I don't want money, I don't want a house, I don't want a car. I mean, I want all those things, but I don't want to have to go get all those things. So like, this is it, and I'm good at this,
Yeah.
and that's whack.
How was your mental health at this time? Take us on that journey.
Methamphetamine
Yeah.
really, really gave me a challenge, like it made things kind of tricky, because well, I'm not sleeping, and I'm on the streets, and I'm not eating, and I'm not drinking water, and I'm just kind of wandering around in the sun for a while. Yeah, I was one of those ones that was hanging out in LA in those big pools of, people and stuff.
Oh, man.
Like
I've been on
downtown, Skid
Keta.
Row.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is incredibly dangerous also. Like, it's sketch. Like,
It's like it's a whole little community, like K-Town.
it's an underworld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Mental health, it hard to take care of when you're on meth. I'll put it to you like that. And I've been put into like college hospital a couple times. I've had
psych ward.
yeah,
basically.
psych ward things, and I don't know. I don't know if they were induced from not sleeping and those sorts of things. But at that time, my mental health was at an all-time low. I don't know how else to put it. Like I had no control of like actual schizophrenic thoughts were going on.
Yeah. And they actually they diagnosed you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was diagnosed schizoaffective.
Okay.
I'm happy to say that today I feel good.
And most of those symptoms have resolved since being sober.
Yeah.
And that's incredible.
Yeah, there's some lingering suspicions I have.
A little paranoia.
2 years
We're
later.
all a little paranoid.
I won't get into what they are,
Yeah.
But it's just like, well, it was a really real time for me, when I was like thinking these things I was thinking, like I was like, especially in 2020, I'll put it to you like that. In 2020, a lot of things went down that just made me wonder.
Yeah.
And
It was a bad time to be on meth and paranoia.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, man.
You know what I mean? And so, like, I guess I could say 2 years into sobriety, I can safely say I don't know what the truth is. I'll put it to you. That's as best as I can do. Is I don't have the answers, and I'm okay with that. I still have what I think and what I wonder about, but I definitely put all that stuff to the side. I don't spend all day thinking about it or all night researching on TikTok.
Can you give us a kind of a rundown of your experience with college hospital, like, and emotionally, what that was like coming to, were you having a hard time grasping reality at all? Did you come back into reality when you were in college hospital? How did that transpire?
Well, to tell you the truth, college hospital was kind of a really long and crazy story. But the short version of it is that even my mental health issues at the time, like I'm hearing things, seeing things, like weren't something I was attached to or paying attention to, because I was still just putting one foot in front of the other and trying to continue the ride,
Right.
And when I ended up in college hospital, it's because police or somehow I got put in a hospital. Well, I had an episode and I got put in the hospital, but I used to hide my drugs in my waistband.
Yeah.
And so when you get to college hospital, they strip you of your clothes and search it, and they put you in hospital clothes. But I think after like a day or two, they give you your clothes back.
Yeah.
And when I got my clothes back, I remember I was in there in my bed thinking, like, how the heck did I even get here? How did this happen? And I was like thinking back, like, as far as my memory is, like, okay, I remember this is the last thing I remember happening, and kind of piecing it together. And it was like about 45 minutes. I was sitting in my bed thinking, I was like, oh yeah, that's what happens because I hadn't slept and I was on drugs. And then the important question popped in my mind was, where the heck are they at? Because I had a lot.
Yeah.
And I remember I was sitting there thinking, like, where did I leave that stuff? And it hit me. I was like, oh no. And I like checked my pants, and I had 8 grams of heroin and like 8 grams of meth in the psych ward with me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
You know? And so I handed it out to Schizos. I had my, I don't know if this comes back to me. I'm sorry. I'll
Statute of limitations. Go
I'll
ahead.
pay my, I was just having a good time. Just, hey man, you want to try some of this? You know?
Yeah.
And I come back to my room and there's a dude on the closet and he's like, what did you do to my brother? And I'm like, I don't know your brother, bro. Like, but it was like all just a game to me. You know, like I wasn't thinking about my mental health. I was just thinking like, I'll tell you what, the only time I ever thought about my mental health was once I got sober.
Yeah.
That's the only time I ever had a problem with my depression or my, because that was just the way of life. Staying alone every day, I hated it, and I felt depressed when I was on the streets, and I felt like a no reason to live and all these kinds of things. But that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
You know.
You didn't see it an out.
Yeah.
Like there was acceptance happening because there wasn't an alternative.
There was no like treating my mental health.
Yeah.
You know.
When you're destroying
There's just
it.
I'm stuck here for 17 days until you let me go, and then I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Some more. You know.
Okay. Take us to that rock bottom moment when you decided, like, this is it. I can't do this anymore. I need help, and I'm willing. Like, I don't hate recovery anymore. Maybe they're not all wrong, you know. Maybe this cult can wash my brain for me.
Yeah. I was hanging out. Well, dude, my life sucked, and it had sucked for a while. The chick I was with was like screwing all my friends. My friends are all trying to screw my chick, so I don't trust anybody. I'm alone hustling every day, like in front of a Ralph's with a stolen ukulele. And then I'm coming home and finding my homeboy with my chick, and they don't want to let me in the room. And I remember one night I was in front of that Ralph's, and I had a phone that I connected to Wi-Fi, and it was about to die, and I was trying to reach out to this chick and like, hey, can you come pick me up? It's getting cold. I knew she was over at my homeboy's pad, and I couldn't stop her. I didn't even have money for the bus. I'm just stuck in front of this Ralph's, and I've been begging, and I don't have any drugs, and this is my life. This is your life, Ozzy. And even if you get high tonight, tomorrow when you wake up, you have to do some more of this. And this is your life, and these are your friends, and this is and you're missing teeth, and if you get $40 tomorrow, then the next day you still got to figure it out, and you haven't showered, and all this stuff. And I just felt like a straight lame. I don't know how else to put it. Like, it's just everything in your life has gone to crap, and and I know why. Finally, if you had asked me that, like, by that point, if you had asked me, do you have a problem? I'd have been like, yeah, this is like, I had a problem with this problem, this is way too much suffering. Even my little, even when I get high, it's like, just like, cool.
You said I had a problem with my problem.
Yeah.
And that was the change. That's.
Yeah, I was just like, this is it, dude. And my brother was out at the time, and we were in front of that Ralph's, and he was like, we're both on the streets, but I got my brother with me, and he was like, I couldn't have him, I definitely just didn't want him to, I don't know, I wanted to give him, I just wanted to get out of it, and I thought maybe he'd see it, but I was just like, dude, I can't do this, I gotta go, I'm not gonna do this, and I'm out, but I really didn't believe it would happen. I still didn't know how I would get sober, how I would pay bills or any of that, but I just was like, this is just way too much, dude, and nothing good's coming from it, at all, So I pulled the plug and went to another rehab.
Who'd you call?
Rehab-wise?
Who'd you call? Yeah, did you call the rehab? Did you call
the intake person, I had, somebody had helped me get insurance, and so I'd been talking to, I was already actually getting ready to pull the plug.
Okay.
And I talked to the intake coordinator, and you know, he said he gave me a date for when to come in, you know, and I called him on that day and I asked him for one more day.
Yeah.
I was like, hey man, like I know you said today, but is there any way I can get one more day? And he asked me for what? And I was like, you know, I just want to get high one more time.
Yeah.
And I had no money, I had no phone, I had no Wi-Fi, I had no connect, I had no ride, I had no like, but I just need one more day. You know, one day at a time. I've been figuring this out, like how I'm gonna stay high, and so can I get one more day? He said, all right, man, you got till 3 tomorrow, you know? And so, yeah, then I went to treatment.
Okay.
For the last time. Thank God, dude. Hopefully the last time, you know.
I mean, you're doing well so far. So this is the longest you've ever had sober, correct? Or clean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the prospects are good. But, like, how does that feel to say that? Like, out of everything and the years of treatment facilities, college, hospital, addiction, being on the streets, like, the accumulation of all of that, and then just having that moment between you and God of, like, this is enough. I need help. I'm willing to receive it. And then you have this gift of this life that you get to live every single day. And it's like a rad life.
Life is such a beautiful, 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 beautiful thing. I don't know how else to put it. Like my life today, my life the whole time, like has been, I feel like it's been leading. Like I'm so glad I got to experience what I got to experience. All of those bad things. I've hurt people I cared about. I've stolen from people I care about. I'm sure people thought he was hopeless. He's never going to change. All so worth it. I hate to say it. All so worth it to like finally be able to treat people right and finally be able to pay bills and finally be able to like take, do my part in society. I mean, I'm not perfect at all, but life is to me like this stepping away from addiction and destruction and loneliness and all that sort of stuff into a place where like finally I can just get to enjoy things when they go wrong is trippy. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really matter if things don't go my way. Like it's just the way we're going and I'm good with that, like finally trying to let go of control and just allow life to unfold in whichever way it's going to unfold.
Be in the flow.
Yeah, just it's become such a beautiful thing that has allowed me to have people in my life too. Like that's the other thing. It's not like I just became a part of the environment. I remember praying, saying when I first got sober and thinking like, all right, here's the deal. I just want to be wherever I'm supposed to be and do whatever I'm supposed to do, even if it's not like what I think I should be doing. I just want to be a part of it. Whatever. If I'm supposed to be a tree and stand here all day, then I'm going to do that, And by doing that, it just allowed people to come into my life, and I have so much help in my life. Like none of what I've created is by myself. I have a beautiful baby, like I live at home with neighbors who I love, who let me borrow this hat, by the way.
Shout out neighbors.
Shout out neighbors.
Johnny. And I get to do things like this, like it's just so much fulfillment has come out of the decision to finally get sober and allow other people to take control for a while. You know what I mean? It was like by giving up my way, I kind of got put in a position where I get to enjoy all sorts of things, like even things that like I get to really be my authentic, genuine self.
Yeah.
I love attention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love attention, and and I'm okay with that, and I try not to like go overboard with like sometimes I do, who knows? But
You're a human.
Yeah, I'm just like a human being. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. Sometimes I forget to brush my teeth. Sometimes I'm not the most helpful dad, like my baby mama, she's incredible, and sometimes I'm not like the best at that. This is my first time doing it,
Yeah.
And but I recognize my actions and I'm trying to do better, you know, and I try to remember every day to do better, but there's a lot of days I forget and I'm just doing what I want to do, you know, and I don't know. It's hard to describe that.
Well,
but
it's just like being a human is a lot of incremental progress and then a little bit of backsliding and then a little bit more incremental progress. And over the span of time, you know, it's kind of like a stock chart. Like our next low is never as low as our last low. It's just a little bit above, and our next high is always higher. So we're kind of just like in this zigzag line, making progress, falling back a little bit, but then making progress again. And I think that's a totally normal human sentiment, you know?
Yeah.
It's completely relatable.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to the person that may be watching this that feels hopeless or like they can't figure this sobriety thing out or their mental health thing out? What do you have to say to them?
It'd probably be easier if you had some help. You know what I mean? That was one thing too. When I first got sober, when I was sitting in those this seat, in the treatment seat the last time, I remember somebody was sharing and they had hit a milestone of a certain amount of time, and I remember seeing clearly like what I needed to do to get there. It's not like you guys don't know. You know what you have to do to have a life free of addiction. I don't know. This is what I believe.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do, but it's gonna take you doing it to do it. You know, like it's gonna take you removing yourself from those friends, or actually, you know, taking meditation seriously, taking those classes that are putting you into treatment seriously, actually going out and finding a job instead of sitting there watching Netflix. And it'll make your life easier. If you don't want people to tell you to make your bed in the morning, make your bed. You know, before they have to tell you. If you really want to be a house manager, start taking care of the house that you're living in. You know, become the person for the job. You know,
Before you get the job.
Yeah, like that's the other thing about this whole 2 years of sobriety is like everything that I'm doing has just come to me. I mean, it's like limitless what the opportunity I have around me of like, and it just, you know, just from like I remember. Everything in front of you is an opportunity to learn how to deal with things. Like when people are stealing your food, maybe you should stop buying Lunchables and Hot Pockets and start buying eggs. You know?
Not going to steal eggs.
They're not going to steal your eggs.
They'll smell it if they steal it.
Yeah, you know, there's little solutions to your things. Dealing with all the different personalities in treatment, you know, there's a lot of that. Meeting that girl, that's a tough one, you know. Those are all things that I did different this time. When I got sober this time, I got sober in a treatment center that allows you to smoke weed, which they exist, you know. And I remember thinking like, finally, a treatment center that understands my needs. You know, I can get sober like this. But luckily, I had people in my life who were like telling me like, well, you've already tried all this stuff, Ozzy. Why don't you try something different? And I took those suggestions, you know. So I didn't smoke weed. I didn't get into a couple's house with some girl I'd met in detox. I just took some time for myself to like pull myself out of the state of, you know, emergency that I was in. And it was like, I felt like a loser sometimes. I was sitting there while they're meditating, and I'm like, you know, and I'm thinking like everybody's watching me. I probably look stupid, but I'm able to breathe today because of those things. You know, I'm able to like have a home because of those things. I'm able to like think about how I treat my girlfriend because of those, you know, like in the long run. And most of my friends from in treatment, I see them online, some of them still, but you know, I hope the best for them and stuff, but that was like my treatment phase, and life has continued to move forward from that if I had let myself make the decisions that, like, for example, somebody once asked me if I would pee in a cup for them, you know, and I think that was a really defining moment for me, because I told them no, you know. And I knew when I told them no, you know, with my 2 months sober, when I told them no, that everyone's gonna hear, oh, Ozzy's, you know, like, you know, he. But there's two things. One, Ozzy won't pee in my cup for me, but the other thing is Ozzy's seriously trying to change his life.
Yeah.
You know, and today, like, doesn't matter. You know how easy it is for me to tell people, like, I've worked in treatment. I'm not gonna piss in your cup for you. You know, like, people know. It's like I joined the winning team. You know, and I think that was a big part of what I had to do. You know, I had to say, like, I don't want to be this anymore. I'm going to go learn how to be this.
You're going to learn how to be a man.
Yeah, I guess so. Am I a man? I'm a
Yeah.
man.
You are a man. You are a man. And it's not even just learning how to be a man, but how to be a good man.
Yeah.
You know, and that's showing up for your family. It's showing up for your friends. It's doing the things in society that, you know, these things, they're required of you on a day-to-day basis, but they're actually really hard. And I don't think people get enough credit for just
It is difficult.
showing up and being good humans.
Yeah,
you know?
it's tricky stuff. Like, especially when the whole world's watching. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's weird, but it's something that I had to get through personally.
Mm-hmm. But it's good.
Yeah, I'm real happy about it. I'm happy with the results.
I'm happy with the results too. Well, it was an actual pleasure having you here today.
Yeah, it was really good being here, and I really appreciate you guys inviting me out.
Of
Man,
course.
no, thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Wow, I'm a little sick. I'll just do
That's all right.
And that's it for another episode of Straitjacket Podcast. And we'll see you next time.